The Mendocino County Fire Safe Council, in cooperation with the University of California Cooperative Extension, present this home hardening video series with Steve Quarles and Yana Valachovic. This episode talks about the safety of your roof as it pertains to wildfires.
Today we're going to be talking about your roof. So there are many kinds of roofs out there. They vary in terms of shape and the like. And there's a lot of people telling you what to do with your roof. You may hear people tell you that you need to make sure you have a Class A fire-rated roof covering. So this Class A fire-rated roof covering, there's many fire-rated roof coverings that have this Class A rating. Having a Class A fire rating these days is a pretty easy thing to do, and most roof coverings have that. When you look at this slide here, you'll notice that there's a red circle on the roof. The fire rating of your roof covering, that's what that red circle tells you about. These yellow squares are the vulnerabilities of your roof that just are not answered or addressed by the fire rating itself. And you have a number of things that can make your roof vulnerable that you just need to understand and take care of, because a fire rating won't help you. And you'll notice these yellow square things are where the roof meets other parts of your house. So where roof meets siding that you see in the dormer here, or where the roof meets your vent, or where the roof meets your skylight, or where your roof meets your gutter. These are places where your roof can be vulnerable to wildfire, often because of debris that can accumulate in those areas, but often just because of the fact that embers can accumulate in those areas. I often talk about the roof as being one large catcher's mitt.
Your roof is your largest horizontal surface. So really focusing on the roof is key. It can be a little expensive if you're, like me, needed to replace the roof, but once you get that piece taken care of, then the rest of it's kind of cakewalk.
Here we have a roof, the big yellow circle around this roof. This is an asphalt composition shingle roof, so nominally it's a Class A roof covering. The thing about fire ratings for roof coverings is that for the most part, you don't need to, the manufacturer doesn't need to test the roof covering as it ages. It's the performance of the roof covering when it's brand new. You can tell that this roof is kind of aging. It was a Class A roof covering when it was built, when it was new, and it's likely not now. I think part of the challenge is that you have to maintain the roof, your roof covering, and replace it when it's worn out. Similarly, if you have a tile roof and some of the tiles become broken, well, that roof covering is no longer either providing protection against rain that Yana talked about, or nor is it providing protection against embers or flame that might be present. It's opened up the part of the roof underneath the roof covering. The thing that you need to worry about when you have a metal roof covering, and this applies also to tile roof coverings, particularly the barrel-shaped tiles, is that you have these openings at the edge of the roof. And you can see that in this red circle on the left-hand picture with this corrugated roof covering. And it's a little bit more easier to see a different kind of metal roof covering in the right-hand picture, but you'll notice that there's always these openings. These openings are places where debris can go before the wildfire threatens, and they're where embers will go when a wildfire is threatening. You want to plug these openings so that debris can't get into there. If the opening is big enough, then rodents can get in there and build nests. And so what this homeowner has done is stuff these areas with mineral wool, which is a non-combustible insulation material. And it comes in a bat form. And this particular homeowner just sort of stuffed each opening. If you have a clay barrel tile, you can use a mortar mix that you might, the stuff between bricks, and you can just sort of plug it in. Another thing you could do would be to use a steel wool kind of a product and stuff that in there. Because that would, all you're trying to do is plug it with something non-combustible to minimize debris entry and ember entry. So this is an example of what we call a complex roof. This is where you have roof to wall. In the first picture, it was a roof to a dormer siding. In this case, it's just not a dormer per se, but it's just a sort of a split level where you have siding butting up against the roof covering. This particular part can be vulnerable, either A, because debris typically can accumulate in that area, and if that occurs, then embers will be there also and ignite that debris. And secondly, if embers just lodge here, you'll notice that there isn't really much of a space between the start of the siding and the roof covering. This is a Class A, it's called composition shingle Class A, so it can handle the ember exposure. It can handle burning debris, but this is a composite wood siding material. It would be more easily ignited by embers alone that might accumulate here, and even easier yet, should there be debris. The inset picture is just from, again, the IBHS research facility, demonstrating how easy it is for embers to ignite debris that might accumulate at this roof to wall on this particular dormer. And in this case, the siding needs to provide the same protection as a Class A roof covering, and this under eave area also has to provide the same protection as the Class A roof covering. So what can you do? Well, in this local area, as we see in the inset picture, or in this smaller area just at the roof to wall, you can replace that siding only there with a non-combustible option. You can add some metal flashing that would be attached to the siding, and also, but you have to sort of remove roofing locally also to make sure that that metal flashing goes underneath it. Keeping debris off the roof. This is either a roof that doesn't accumulate debris so much, or the homeowner is quite good about cleaning debris off the roof, and either one of those options work.
And this roof complexity piece is, I think, a really critical issue for people to be thinking about. If you are in the place where you're designing a new home or going to build a new home, the simpler the roof design, the far easier it is to maintain the integrity of that Class A roofing and have it function for you from a fire resilience perspective.
Here we just have a standing seam metal roof, but it just shows another kind of place where you have a roof to the wall in this yellow circle. This is a small area, easier to replace with a non-combustible option. Definitely, there are fiber cement panelized products available. This is a steel roof, so Class A by itself, it is just this complex roof issue that makes this roof vulnerable. Another example, again, asphalt comp roof. This is a little bit harder to maintain because you have this overhanging roof over this lower roof section. It's possible that you could enclose this with, again, metal screening to minimize debris getting into there and to minimize embers from going there during when the home is threatened by a fire. Just another example of this particular vulnerability of a roof to wall. This one's a little more complicated just because of the way that it was designed in the beginning. So here we have a metal roof, looks like a plastic gutter guard. You'll notice first that having a gutter guard doesn't really mean that you have a maintenance-free roof, because you'll notice that debris can accumulate on top of the gutter guard. Sometimes a gutter guard results in debris accumulating on the roof and back of the gutter guard. So you'll still need to be ready to remove debris from the roof or top of the gutter guard now and then. And I think the issue with a plastic gutter guard that we have here is that if you have a lot of debris accumulating on top of it, then embers will ignite that debris and potentially involve the plastic gutter guard. So we always recommend non-combustible gutter guard. That would be a better option. And then here's another example of a gutter. This one doesn't have a gutter guard, it doesn't look like. It has a really good design feature in terms of this drip edge, this metal drip edge at the roof edge. This is a good design feature if it's installed properly. And this one isn't installed in a way that can help protect the roof from ignited debris in a gutter. And the reason for that is that the gutter, the edge flashing, so this metal edge, it's an angle flashing, so part of it is stuck underneath the roof covering and the other part hangs vertically down. It should tuck behind the gutter, because in this case, the metal flashing is really protecting the wood fascia board at the edge of the roof. And it can't do that if this drip edge is outboard of the gutter. Here we have a couple of things going on in this roof. Again, the orange square, it's this roof to siding. This is a wood siding. So this is a lower slope roof, so adding flashing to the wall would be easier. You want to make sure when you add it that you don't allow water to get behind the flashing, between the flashing and the wood siding, because you'll rot the wood siding, and then it has to go underneath the roof covering there. And then we have this gutter with the similar kind of drip edge that doesn't go behind the gutter, and you have this opening at where the roof changes slope and at the end of the valley, wide open to debris, to embers. So you want to make sure you cover that up. We haven't talked about valleys. So this is a place where debris can accumulate and be easily ignited by embers. If you're replacing your roof, then you would put an additional material underneath the roof covering just to provide added protection to this area. Should debris in this valley ignite, it'll damage the roof covering, but the roof covering shouldn't fail. And this red square is this is a place where for this particular exposure, you don't have a gutter there. You have a good overhang here. So this is actually nothing to speak about in a negative way here. It's just an example of where you don't have a gutter because of its location on the home. Solar panels. So these are becoming quite common. The thing about solar panels is that there's a large plastic component to them. The underside of solar panels are plastic. And so you'll just want to make sure that you take a look and clear out debris that might accumulate underneath the roof covering, because should that debris ignite, then it's easier to ignite the solar panels themselves because of the plastic component, and that will become a very big exposure to your roof covering. Whereas a roof covering might be able to handle a given exposure. Given this large exposure, you might actually burn through the roof covering into the house itself, into the occupied portion of the house or the attic. On flat roofs or low slope roofs, often you're going to have a tilted solar panel array. It's much easier for debris to accumulate, much easier for you to clean it up.
You know, in many respects, the things that we're talking about are kind of new ideas. So when you're talking to your contractor or the installer for a new roof, they're not going to be familiar with some of the things that we're talking about here. So you're going to need to do some education with that contractor and say, you know, here's what I'm trying to achieve. And then I think together you'll be able to help implement that vision, because a lot of this work is new, and you know, they're there to install the product to the best of their ability, but may not be thinking about all the exposure issues and all the concerns that you might have.
The thing mostly is to be vigilant about debris accumulation. Your roof is vulnerable most vulnerable because of places where the roof meets other components, a wall, a gutter, a vent, and it's more than just the fire rating and the roof covering that we want you to be thinking about when you're doing things to reduce the vulnerability of your home, and in this case, roof to wildland fire.
And if you do get an ignition on your roof, what you're trying to do is sort of make sure there's not a lot of material that's going to ignite. So a few leaves here and there, if they catch on fire, you know, the roof is designed to be able to withstand those. The bigger issue is really these little, you know, cracks, gaps and joints, things that are just wearing through time. And so, you know, a regular inspection of your roof and, you know, just making sure that you're taking care of those issues so that your roof will age well and perform well through time and provide the services that you're asking that roof to do.